further back. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, whatever time of the day it is, wherever you are, Project Kazimierz listener. Today I've got a special guest, Gill Grose, who's come here from South Africa, and rather than me try to introduce her as best I can, I think it would be better if you did it yourself. So, hello Gill, and who are you?
Hi Richard, it's a pleasure to be here. My name's Gill Grose. I live in Cape Town, South Africa. I'm an avid reader, have been all my life, worked in libraries, most of my working life in libraries or in information divisions, particularly in the building industry and for architects. But above all, I'm an avid reader and absolutely love books more than anything. So I was introduced to a primary school very close to my house where the children of my domestic worker were enrolled, and at some point I decided after finishing work or having retired from work that I needed something constructive to do. So I volunteered as a helper, a one-on-one helper with an organisation called Help to Read, which takes children who are behind and gives them one-on-one attention for half an hour twice a week. And I wondered why we were operating inside this very nice little library that had a great collection of books and an operating computer, but there was no librarian. So I made some inquiries and discovered that the school had lost its librarian post in 2006, and this was now 2010. And the responsibility for the library had been left to one of the teachers, one or other of the teachers who had far too much to do, so not much was happening as far as the library was concerned. So I indicated that I might be willing to help from time to time, and they jumped at the opportunity, and then it grew from then. So initially I would go in a couple of hours, a few days a week, but from 2012 I started opening the library at 7:15 every morning. And then I'm there for 3 break sessions, 1 before school and 2 during the day. And then as time went on and the teachers got used to me, they agreed to send their classes one by one. So essentially I'm there for 4 days a week, 3 breaks, and each of the classes from grade 1 to grade 7 comes to the library for a session during which I'm not actually teaching them anything, but essentially I'm giving them the opportunity, all of the children in the class, to choose a book and take it out.
Let me cut in there, because you plunged straight into your story, which is great. And when we were discussing the show, you said you're not sure how entrepreneurial it is, because I was explaining that Project Kazimierz is about entrepreneurship and innovation and putting other interesting people on the podcast. And I was explaining that, for me, entrepreneurship is wider than a tech startup. It includes anyone who sees a problem that they that they think can be solved, or can organise the solution of the problem. So can you explain a bit about the context? That we'll perhaps give the age, because different countries have got different names for school years and grades. Can you explain the age of the children, maybe their background, because not many of our listeners are in South Africa, and everyone's probably aware that South Africa is quite an unusual society. So the age of the children, the background, and what particular problem were you solving the fact the library wasn't open early could address?
Well, the children are aged from 6 to 14, that's grade 1 to grade 7. Some of them are a little bit old, some of them start a bit later or repeat a year, so they're a little bit older. So they're from 6 to 14. There are 7 classes, grade 1 to grade 7, plus an aid class for children with learning problems. And the socio-economic background, well, the children are all either black or coloured, with a sprinkling of white children. The black children mostly get bussed in from the townships, and the parents are sending them to this inner city or suburban English school because they perceive that they're going to get a better education than they would get in the township. So education is not entirely free. The poorer 50% of kids in South Africa actually go to free schools, but the children at my school actually pay approximately 1,000 rand a month. That's about 250 zloty a month. And on top of that, they're paying for the transport to bring the kids in and take them home in these taxis every day, and that probably costs about another 100 zloty. So these parents are actually paying a lot of money for their children to come to the school. So some of the children's parents don't read at all. They have no books in the home whatsoever. But of course there are a sprinkling whose parents certainly do read and encourage them. So there's quite a wide range of interest in reading, from zero to very keen. So there's plenty of room for motivation and encouragement.
Okay, and what sort of time do children arrive in the morning, and what was happening before you opened?
Well, the children arrive. I discovered in 2012 that the children arrive on transport at 7 a.m. The school actually opens the doors at 7 a.m. but school only starts at 20 to 8. So these children were running around in the playground, which is fine, but if there was an opportunity for the ones who wanted to read or possibly play chess or other games or something before school. So in fact the headmaster suggested that I might be interested in opening the library early in the morning. I hadn't been aware of the fact that the children did arrive early, and I thought initially that I would try it out a couple of days a week when I wasn't walking. I belonged to a walking group, and I didn't want to interfere with that. But the very first day that I opened the library, 50 children turned up. So I then decided that I had to do this. And that started in 2012, so I've been doing it for 6 years.
6 years. And what's the volunteering tradition? Were you a parent in the school, or did you have another role there? How did you come across this school and decide to volunteer?
No, my domestic workers' children went to the school.
I see. And could you name the school? Because probably does the school have a website? Could we post a link to the website later?
No, it doesn't have a website. It's called Claremont Primary School. It opened in 1906 and used to be called Claremont Public School and used to be for only white children. But since 1994, after Freedom Day and the end of apartheid, it's been open to all children. But it's a small, under-resourced school, and what's happened is that the white children have fled to the better schools in the area. The area has some extremely good, well-resourced schools. So the white children have fled, and the school has become, in a way, the student body has become darker and darker, which is a common inner city situation.
But although 250 zloty a month might sound, or 1,000 rand might sound not so much in Poland, in South Africa, what are those middle-class parents who can afford to pay those fees? What's the sort of...
Lower middle class and middle class.
Mm-hmm. And is private education very popular of that type, or what are the state schools? Because there is free state education.
No, there isn't free state education. Okay. Only for people who really fall into the lowest economic categories. Mm-hmm. For example, in the apartheid era, my brother went to a state school, and that was free. I went to a convent and we had to pay. My children attended state schools in the 80s and 90s, and by that stage the state schools in the wealthier areas, largely white areas, the government had decided even before the end of apartheid that those people had to pay because there wasn't enough money to pay for free education for everybody. So it was decided in the late 80s when my children were in primary school that people living in relatively well-to-do areas would have to pay for education on a sliding scale.
I see. And so in South Africa, because we haven't visited the school, at least I haven't visited the school, is it quite typical for schools to have libraries? One of the reasons I thought it was an interesting potential TEDx talk, I actually suggested to Cape Town, South Africa, that they might get in touch, because it seemed that this would be an idea that potentially could spread to other schools. Do most schools in South Africa have school libraries? And